I have ice cream every night. The craving is so strong and so intense that it's like it's a need, you know. And for whatever reason, you know, I've ended up kicking that habit and kicking that sort of cycle of what I normally do. But then, you know, within whatever period of time, it starts creeping its way back in, and then it just grips you again, and then you're back in the throes of it.
How are subconscious patterns and habits formed? And what steps can one take to change deeply ingrained habits?
So that's a pretty broad and deep question. How do they evolve and implant themselves in our lives? And you know, that is kind of what happens, is they just naturally evolve from the environments that we're in, you know, the upbringing that we've had, the peer group that we grew up within, the ideas that have been fed into us by culture. All those things combine to just start manifesting particular behavior patterns to begin with in our lives. And then they get stuck, you know, and then, as I said before, they just become what we normally do. And I said, we stumble into a set of behaviors and ways of thinking. You know, I mean, thinking is in and of itself a behavior as well. It's just where you're in habits of thinking, and those habits of thinking create feelings, and those feelings create actions, and each element of that becomes just part of a pattern and a cycle that's just kind of you get stuck in, because our nervous system's always looking for ways to make things more efficient. You know, if you had to think every time about everything that you do, and like at every step of the way, it was like you'd never get past the sort of elementary stages of anything, you know, because you have to reconsider it all the time. So it's like once something's figured and done, and yep, got that, you sort of pack it away and then move on to the next thing, so that I don't have to use up so much brain power thinking about the basics, you know. So we stumble into these things based on our upbringings and our environments, and you know, lots of things we didn't choose. Some things we did, but we probably weren't conscious of the fact that these things were all creating the evolution of our habits that just kind of form into whatever they become. Something that I'd like to say around this is that things can always change, and they always are changing. You know, and this is a good thing for bad things, you know, and a bad thing for good things. So, you know, no matter how horrible something is, no matter how addicted someone is to something, or no matter how horrible someone's circumstances and habits might be, they can change, right? So that's good. It's good when it's bad. But the problem is that also when you're in a really, really good place and all your habits are amazing and they're going really well, they're not locked in either. They are just as likely to move and change as bad ones are, you know. But it is what it is, and that's what we're working with. So we constantly need to be conscious of what it is that is evolving and changing, because it always is. Nothing is ever fixed and done. Having an awareness around what it is that is forming through, you know, the ideas that we take on, the patterns that are rolling out. Things are always in flux. Everything is always kind of shifting and evolving and changing. And if you're keeping them the same, or if things are the same, it's because this loop is just being constantly cultivated and revivified inside of your life. So then it maintains itself. And it's easier to do that than sort of try and break out of it, to just keep it going. But it's still getting shifted by life circumstances, things, and that's the thing. They typically do only get kicked out of their normal cycle if significant changes happen. You know, change job, change partner, change house. You know, you get really sick. So, you know, someone dies. All these sort of things. They can sort of kick you out of the sort of normal cycle of things. But, you know, waiting for those kind of experiences can lead to a lot of chaos, you know, just sort of reacting to whatever happens, and then being shaped by what's happening is going to happen. But you kind of want to be more of a director of that, where it ends up. You know, so be conscious of the fact that you are changing always, for better or worse, or keeping yourself in the habits and flows of what normally happens. And really directing that instead of just waiting for something to change you, rather than you intentionally changing yourself. I mean, change will happen regardless, you know. It may seem like, you know, oh, people never change, but I mean, if you take a closer look, you know, we're changing every day. You know, there are some parts that stay very similar, some parts that don't, but you want to be the director of your change rather than just sort of waiting for it to happen to you.
That was really good. Have you ever slipped back into a bad habit that you used to do?
Personal question, I guess. Yeah. Definitely. Having been 30 kilos overweight myself, being a little obese child, and my bad habits is just eating junk food and getting stuck in that. And one thing that comes to mind in that context is, there have been times where, like say, I'll have ice cream every night after dinner. And it feels like a need, like once you've had that dinner afterwards, the craving is so strong and so intense that it's a need, And for whatever reason, I've ended up kicking that habit and kicking that sort of cycle of what I normally do, having that craving for ice cream and dessert and needing that sort of sugar hit afterwards. I mean, the fact is it's not a need. I mean, and I think that's a good insight there, is the fact that it's recognizing the truth of the situation. It's not a need, it's just an extreme craving. The body doesn't need that. Maybe I've become dependent on it for stimulation at that time. But again, it's a habit. It's what I normally do. It's what my nervous system expects at that time, and so therefore generates a craving, a drive for it. So anyway, I've been able to kick that, probably because I was getting too fat, and I was feeling uncomfortable in my body and just feeling like it was starting to be more in control of my decision making than me. But then I just thought, okay, something needs to change. So get rid of it. But then, within whatever period of time, it starts creeping its way back in, and then I start having it, a little bit too often, and then it happens again, and then it just grips you again, and then you're back in the throes of it. And then it takes a decision, it takes enough pain to change it again. So, I've learned to become very vigilant about that and never think that it's ever over. Like, I'm still now, it doesn't matter how aware I might be, I know that that's something that can pop up again and have me gripped. So I never have any sense of arrogance around that, the total sense of humility around how vulnerable and on the edge it always is. None of this stuff is ever fixed, as I've just been saying, that habits are never fixed. And no matter how, we want it to be like, okay, I've figured it out, it's done, it's locked in, it just happens whether I want it to or not. That is never the case. It becomes much more patterned into your life, and you expect it more, it becomes more of what you normally do, but that doesn't mean that it's locked in, I mean, so you get, go on holidays and then get sick and then change job. And then it's been weeks since I was doing what I normally did, and then it's been a month or 2 months, and then there's been this massive disruption in my life. Now I've spent weeks not doing it, not normally doing it anymore, and then weeks or months, and then it's like, okay, well now, because the pattern is changing. Any deviation that you take is going to start changing your patterns. Even if it's for a short time, that's it. In every moment, in every day, whatever you're doing now and today is shifting you, one way or another. Be vigilant. So I've learned to always be paranoid in a sense of those habits showing up and generating their drive, for pleasure, and that's about it. So I'm here every week with new insights on how to improve your health, your life, your weight, information and insight you will not get anywhere. So subscribe, hit the notification bell, and I'll see you next week.